Joanna Batemits. I am the founder and music supervisor of Club Sakuo, and I am here to introduce and interview the wonderful Mr. James Cartwright. Did I say that correctly?
Yep.
As a fellow music supervisor, I have a lot of understanding and admiration and respect for what James does. James is based out of LA. He's a great music supervisor, has over 15 years of experience placing music in film and TV. And he's also Ohio University alumni, so that's very, very exciting. James, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm with my people.
I love it.
The OU audio crowd.
So yeah, I will dive right into it because I'm sure everyone's very excited to hear from James. James, I'd love to hear about your journey into music supervision, what inspired you to follow that path, and I'm very, very curious about what you studied here at Ohio University and how that experience helped shape your path into becoming who you are now.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you've memorized all these. That was
I
you
will
weren't
look
even
at my
looking.
phone.
You weren't even looking at your notes. That was
I
great.
hate to tell you.
Yeah, I went to OU 02 to 06. I figure we're gonna have a bunch of references, so I'm gonna date myself. So I'm just gonna get that out of the way. So yeah, almost 20 years. Coming here, I started as like a IT major, like no real showbiz aspirations, and then fell in with a group of filmmakers and started helping out on short films. I was like holding the boom mic, and then I got a promotion to production mixer, and then I was doing post-production sound. And then before you know it, I was changing my major to audio production. So I graduated with audio production major with a minor in music.
Wow.
And it was, the next part was about coursework.
Well, okay, we'll get to that, but what was your experience here like? Tell us. Did you have fun?
I mean, we were talking backstage. I mean, I'm the biggest OU stan. Like, this campus is what I fell in love with and why I came here. The people, obviously, like I was just telling you about this group of filmmakers I fell in with, who are my best friends still to this day. Like, when we graduated, we moved to LA with like 30 people. Like, we all graduated from here, got in our cars, moved to LA together.
It's like the dream, right?
It's the dream, and they're all still there. I mean, for the most part, they're all still there, and like our best friends. We watched, all the weddings, their kids. So those are all OU kids that we're still with.
So what happened after graduation? What was your vision, and
yeah,
how did you end up in LA?
So that was kind of falling in with this group was like, I didn't really have a plan for after graduation.
No one does.
Yeah, but they did. A lot of these kids, they were just so good at what they did. They're so talented. A couple of them do camera. One's a writer. Someone does casting. We all had our role. So that's how I fell into the audio side, because that was the gap they had. And I should say, I grew up a music, and we'll get into this.
Lover.
Music nerd. It was like basically my whole personality in high school was my music taste. So
super quickly, what were some of like the job experiences you had between like starting up? You said you worked with this crew, and that kind of put a foot in the door. But what were your more real jobs per se?
You mean like after graduation?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a winding path to get to music supervision. It was something that was always in the back of my mind. I loved the intersection of music and TV and film. But it's really hard to get into, as I'm sure you know. Mm-hmm. And so my network wasn't quite there. So I bounced around. I mean, I did great. Like, moving to LA, you just do crazy stuff. Like, I held a boom mic on a feature that I found on Craigslist. Worked out of a composer's garage, like on his like vanity software project. And then I was interning. So my degree's in audio production. I thought I was going to be like an engineer, like an audio engineer. And so I had an internship at a recording studio where I was like one of 40 interns.
Classic.
Like it was one of the studios on like Sunset Boulevard that's like across the street from the like recording academy that was just like pumping kids out. So I kind of took a look in the mirror and was like, I don't know, like 1 out of 4, like this is, what are the chances of getting
Believe
a
in
job
yourself,
here?
James.
But so that's how I ended up on the business side of things. That internship ran its course, and I got a job at a record label and kind of didn't look back. And I did that for a number of years. And then that's actually how, through being in the industry long enough, working at labels, building up my connections, I was able to, then when I finally pulled the trigger, I was like, I want to be a music supervisor. And I had the connections at that point to lead me to it. And that's kind of how I fell into it, where I'm at now.
I mean, it's no secret that relationships and making connections are super important in the music industry, and clearly you went about it the right way to move yourself forward in your career.
Very organic, yeah. I was
Very
over the
organic.
course of like 10 years.
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
But okay, that's really interesting. I love hearing about people's experiences and how they get to where they are, because it's so different for everyone. There is like no clear-cut pathway that you take, and
I think
so
that's a good takeaway from this, is that it's not like point A to B, and it's okay if it's...
exactly. And the part that kind of stays the same is your passion to push through and keep doing what you're doing, and not let go of that sort of dream that you have.
Yep.
And I think that's what you did.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
okay, so if we could move on from there, you become a music supervisor, and it's a fun job. I'd love to talk about your creative process and how you go about finding the right music to place into different TV shows.
So that's the fun part of the job. So we can start off with the fun.
And I guess my follow-up question to that is, how do you usually find your music? Is it like in your own time when you're just like organically listening to music,
Right.
or are you taking deep dives for specific projects?
Yeah, so I like to think of it as like, I've used this analogy before, but like a funnel. So when you're starting on a project, it's very broad. In my opinion, this is the most fun part of a project, is you're figuring out the sound of it, like the general kind of vibes. You're sending playlists over, and this is like the fun part. This is what people are like, oh, your job is just to make playlists. And this is the stage where that is actually true. And then as you get further into the project, you're working on specific scenes or specific episodes. It gets whittled down. And we end up sending, this is kind of just the nuts and bolts, but we end up sending like 5 or 10 options for like a scene. And then I might be skipping ahead, but
It's
about
okay.
the creative, creative control or whatever. But we send like 5 options, and then we're not the one. I mean, this is kind of important to point out. We're not the ones that are just like picking the final track. Typically, I mean, we'll have our favorites, and sometimes they ask us, but it's you're presenting like 5 really strong options, and then they will pick from that, oftentimes. And then the second part is, ideally, it would be, of your everyday listening would be like giving you these results. But I think realistically, it's not really like that. I kind of have my personal listening time and then my work listening time.
Sometimes it
Sometimes.
collides, yeah.
And it's really cool when it does. And that's probably the most rewarding time.
Yeah, I think it's, like you said, people think you're just making playlists and listening to music, and how much fun is that? But at the same time, it's not, you're not always listening to the stuff that you want to listen to. You're listening to the stuff that's specific to the project you're working on.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might not be something that you like necessarily.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky enough. I work on stuff that it's, for the most part, it's stuff that I like, or it's stuff that I'm surprised to find that I like, which I think is key here, because it's just keeping that curiosity alive.
100%. I
Yeah.
so much agree with you. I think being a music supervisor is having like insane curiosity to discover new music and different sounds and sounds from all over the world. And and you're just kind of jazzed by it. You're just so intrigued. And I think it's that, and I think it's being like a researcher.
Took the word right out of my mouth, research. And that's one of the clips we'll show, the research project. But yeah, research. I feel like the times I'm most inspired is period pieces that I get to do. Like I'm on one right now that's Soviet era, it's like 1978 Moscow.
Perfect.
And we're finding out that like, rock and roll didn't really hit until a little later, it was like kind of folky at that point. And just like learning about a time and place that specific is, that's the coolest part.
So, okay, going back to, it's not your final call, what song gets placed. Do you ever fight for something? Do you ever fight for a song or push for your own agenda, I guess?
Yeah. And yeah, almost every time. I do it in subtle ways. I've told some people this. It's funny. It's like kind of inside baseball, but when we send out the playlist, just the same way with an artist that's putting out a record, the sequencing. Mm-hmm. So do you put your favorite song at the top? Do you put it,
Do you?
I do. And every playlist I ever send, which is dozens a week, favorite first, second favorite second, because
someone told me you don't put the favorite song on the
and
top.
I will listen to that take, but I've always found putting them in order, it gives a shorthand too for like, cause I have like coworkers, so I have like a co-supervisor or a coordinator. It's almost like shorthand to them as well. Like they just know that's like the rule. But you never know if like a producer or a showrunner is going to listen to like track 5 or like track 8 or whatever.
Yeah, track 8, we're pushing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you find some amazing music and, that's not all of it, right? So there's some challenges in negotiating and getting songs to clear and working with small budgets, as you know. How do you navigate that world?
Yeah, clearances.
What are the challenges that you come across?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that comes with the experience is figuring out those problems before they happen. So, I mean, this is kind of obvious, but not pitching something that's out of your price range, for instance, or knowing about certain artists that aren't going to clear, just as a rule. So, every once in a while we'll pitch something, they'll love it. You get a big win on that, and then you go to clear it, and it doesn't clear.
Hate that.
Yeah, and then it's on you because you pitched it, but it doesn't happen that often. Luckily, like we have a couple stories of like crazy clearances.
I want to hear them.
Okay. This was a show. I don't want to put anybody on blast, but it was a show that some of the characters were participating in depraved behavior, heavy drug use.
I think I know what you're talking about. I looked at your credits, James.
And so the song, and I had pitched it. It was a song that was like really upbeat. And so it played that juxtaposition of like the really fun, like kind of sunshine vibe to this like person that's like hitting rock bottom. It's a dark humor, so it's like in a funny way, but it was like kind of crazy. I pitched it. I loved the track. I was like rooting for it. It was track 1 on the playlist.
Proves your point.
They picked it. They loved it. And then we went to go clear it, and we found out that the artist was recently like born again. And so she denied it. And we had sent out, I think, a decent offer, but we had some conversations with the producers. Like, they really wanted it. So, like, what can we do? So we went back, offered more money. I'm on the phone, like, breaking the bad news to producers, like, we're gonna have to replace this track. And when I get an email saying it was approved, and we all had a good laugh that, everyone, I guess, has a price.
That's amazing. It actually kind of goes into my next question, which is, there's a lot of, like, business skills, people skills that this job takes. Is not just creative. And do you enjoy that part? Do you enjoy having these conversations with those people and getting them to say yes, and being able to deliver those good news to your clients, and sweating it out and not knowing and
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely relation based. Like we're leaning on people. I have like a solid contact at all the labels, all the publishers. Kind of what I was talking about before is like heading off problems before they happen. Sometimes it's like as easy as like a text message to like my friend at the publisher to be like, "Will Bruce Springsteen clear for this show?"
probably not.
And then she's like, "No," or whatever, whatever. But yeah, it's having those relationships and being comfortable enough to like text somebody that question is kind of our value that we bring to these projects. And so when we get hired, that's what they're paying for, is like these inside connections.
Right.
And
It's not just your music taste, it's your relationships. It's the ability to call out people, the right people, or you text them, and it's a very small business, and so we all become friends, and it makes our jobs much easier to be able to reach out to these people and ask them like really casual questions in a way that's not writing a formal email with a request and all that, and
which you have to do as well. But yeah, to your point, the LA sync community is very tight knit. There are probably too many social events. Like if I wanted to go out every night, I could. But it's a great way to. When I got my job, I got lucky. I was instantly kind of plugged in, and met people really quickly, and people are really warm and welcoming.
Yeah, it's a great community of people, honestly.
I'm guessing the New York one is even more.
Once you get in it.
Okay.
Once you get into
Yeah.
it. No, I mean, for both LA and New York, I think it's a beautiful community. People are very close-knit and hang out and have events and all that, and care about your personal life and all that.
Yeah.
But it is still very hard to break into that and sort of make yourself known. But it's part of it. A big part of being a music supervisor, working in the music business, is that, right? Like
Yep.
honing those relationships. So, yeah. What was the next question? I think our next question is advice, right? I guess there's a lot of people now that are aware of this job and want this job, and so if you were to give advice to some aspiring music supervisors, what would you say to them? What are some do's and don'ts?
Yeah.
And
I feel like I have like a whole checklist. I mean, I can start at the basic stuff like work ethic. Like you just said, it's a job that a lot of people want, which kind of, I mean, this is tricky territory because I know like work-life balance is important, and some of your work relationships can be abusive in that way. And so I don't want to advocate for that, but I think at the end of the day, it's a client-vendor relationship, and I guess in the back of my head, I'm always thinking like they can hire any other, if we're not, they ask for something on a Friday evening, I would prefer to deliver in that way, and just coming at it from that mindset of going the extra mile for your client.
so, yeah, we jumped ahead a little bit, but think about yourself at Ohio University as a student.
I see, yeah.
And how would you do it differently? How would you go about positioning yourself now, knowing what you know?
Yeah, if I could do it all over, I mean, I would probably
It's a hard question.
I'd probably get into it right away. I think that just like time in the industry, or on this side of things, like for instance, like I have my boss does fit really well, and he's been in it for a while. He started as an intern, so he's only a little bit older than me, but has made strides in the industry because he started at such a young age. And so I think, and this is what I tell like the interns that we have is, well, I guess I should say we only hire interns who want to be music supervisors, because we deal with a couple music schools out there, and we'll get a lot of applicants that are like kind of curious about it, but they really want to be a singer or whatever, which is fine.
Right.
But we try to find candidates who like, they want to be music supervisor. They have favorite music supervisors, you know, when they watch a show, they know who the music supervisor is.
I think that's like a really important part that you're touching upon is like knowing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really hard, especially at the age when you're in college, even going into
So
college,
hard.
knowing what you want to study, and then
Yeah.
when you're in college, knowing what career path you want to take, and then people in the business expecting you to know exactly what you want to do.
Yeah, this is with hindsight that with this exercise. So I don't know if that's a realistic thing, you know, to be able to pinpoint that.
Maybe not. I think for
maybe it's
some people
more-
it is, and some people it's not.
Maybe the profession is like more visible now, and so I
Exactly.
think college kids do maybe know more about it. I mean, we're here.
Right. And again, like going back to this summit and being here and having this conversation right now, I think it's so beautiful. And so I love it. I didn't have that opportunity to understand
Exactly,
what
yeah.
this profession even was when I was in college.
Yeah.
I had zero understanding. So I think it's really important, and it sets people up to follow this path and be more interested. And yeah.
Yeah. So my checklist is work ethic, I guess knowing what you want to do, Google Sheets. It's a lot of Google Sheets. And then that kind of goes without saying, but like developing your taste profile, like whether it's like you have, the way I listen to music is, I will just get obsessed with one artist and just go down that rabbit hole for months. But this job is like having kind of what we talked about earlier, but having a broad knowledge about, you know, having like at least conversational knowledge about a very broad range of genres and artists. So I think as like if you were a young aspiring music supervisor, I think just finding what you like out of different genres and just keeping that curiosity that we talked about.
I think that we talk a lot about the business side, but the creative side is really, really important. You could be an amazing connector, business person, whatever, but just not have the right music taste, right?
Yep.
And honing in on that and knowing how to discover all that, I think is really interesting, and it's something really cool that we didn't have when, I don't know if you had it when you were in college. Did you have streaming services? No. So we didn't even have access to all this music.
No, it's funny because I hear stories of my boss I was talking about, who's been doing it for a while. He tells stories of like
Picking out the vinyl.
messaging CDs.
Yeah.
It was like, or when he was like an intern, like going to like Amoeba Records with like the expense account and just like buying I think music came out on Tuesdays those days, but it was like every Tuesday you would like grab all of the new CDs so they would have them.
So they would listen to them. Yeah, and then trying to figure out what would work in their films and TV shows. And now we have access to everything.
Yeah.
And so
It makes it a lot easier.
how do as a music supervisor, I always find it hard to know when to stop.
Yeah. Deadlines,
And what's
I think.
Yeah, deadlines. But
Because I could keep going. Like, that is
but
the
the
thing.
night is long,
That is the
James.
thing. Well, that is true. And also, like, this is a good chance to talk about the, like, rhythms of a project. But on a film, you maybe have 15 months to work.
That's nice.
And it is nice. It's funny because when I started, I thought I only wanted to work on films. And then I realized, like, the pace of that work. And then I get to work on television shows where it's like first idea, best idea. And it's
What's the timeline usually with the TV shows?
like they'll lock a cut and then you have maybe like 2 weeks
Okay.
to do everything you need to
So
do.
that you're rushing because you have to clear it too, right?
Clearances take at least a week. So yeah, exactly. So it's like you send those playlists out and they have to pick something, which is kind of nice, you know, because in the meantime, you're working on a film where it's like you're on round like 9 or 10. I know you do advertising, and I know that's even more
Super
rounds.
fast, yeah. I'll stay up all night if I
Yeah.
have to. And again, like it's my own personal issue, but I have a hard time stopping and knowing what's enough. And yeah, and there's so much music out there, you
Yeah.
know?
So you work by yourself, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm lucky I have a company of 3 of us, so we can kind of bounce ideas off each other, and oftentimes it'll be like somebody else can let you know, like, that's enough kind of thing.
Put you on check and
Yeah.
make sure that's fair.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
What else? Okay, should we watch some? Oh, by the way, we're going to take some questions at the end of this, so
Oh, yeah.
please submit your questions via the app. Should we look at some spots?
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is like what I was most excited about, was to show
Okay.
you know, kind of what we're talking about. So this first clip is from a film that I did with Universal. It's called Shooting Stars. It's a LeBron James biopic, which was near and dear to me because it takes place during his high school years, and he's from Akron, and I'm also from Akron. So it was, and actually I'm a year older, so I was there for
Wow.
for this window where the film takes place. So it's 2003 to 2007, Akron, Ohio, which was a very fun time to pull music for. And so this clip is their first day of school as freshmen. And the first act of the film leading up to this clip is the drama of them choosing what school to go to. Because they were like basketball phenom. I don't know if you're a basketball fan.
A little bit.
Okay. So they were, people in Ohio know the story, I'm sure, like the back of their hand. They were basketball phenoms, and they, instead of going to like the vaunted public school basketball program, they chose a Catholic school. And so this is their first day at school.
Hallelujah.
It's a long one. I meant to actually introduce, so the 3 in more of a general sense, the 3 clips show the 3 different kind of pillars of the job. So this one was the juicy needle drop, which I think a lot of people think is like the job, and some of it is. This one was what we like to call like a lot of real estate, because it's like
Totally.
it's like 2 minutes. The songs
You never
heavily
get a
featured.
song that long.
You never get a song that long, which is why I was excited to show that one. So the temp track there was Jay-Z's Hard Knock Life. And as you probably know, like Jay-Z just doesn't clear. Or if he does, it's like $2 million.
Everyone has a price, like you said before.
Everyone has a price, $2 million. We were kind of told. And LeBron, who's a producer on the film, is actually friends with him. And we were kind of told, like, it's not going to happen. So we went pretty deep on this one. It was probably like round 5 or 6. We had pitched, because this song, I think the year would have been technically 2003 that they're, yeah, maybe around there. Earlier, actually. But anyway, this song isn't contemporary to that time. I think we were trying to find something that was like the year of the scene taking place. And so I think there was some pushback there. But I pitched that one. I loved it. The fact that it's we talked a little bit about juxtaposition earlier. The fact that they're having like a bad time, clearly, and it's today was a good day. I love that it wasn't like on the nose, so to speak.
Was it hard to clear?
It was. There's a sample. I didn't do the clearances on this one. I do most of my own clearances.
You had your fingers crossed that it would all work out.
I had my fingers crossed. This might have been a text message situation where I texted somebody who was like, "Does this clear?" kind of thing. But they got it done, and though like messed around and got a triple double, I just loved it. Or like the shake 'em up, shake 'em with the nun, so good.
It's so good. It's so good. I love it.
Yeah. So the second one, talking about the pillars of the job. So the second one is what we like to call an on-camera. So it's our main character. So it's a film called Incoming. We did with Netflix, or I did with Netflix. Incoming is a movie about it refers to incoming freshmen of high school. So it's like takes place like over the course of like the first week of high school, where like the pecking order is still kind of in flux. So this is the climax of the film. Although no spoilers because there's a cliffhanger at the end of the clip here. But it's the main character singing Signed, Sealed, Delivered by Stevie Wonder. They cast this kid because he's a great actor, but maybe not necessarily a great singer. So he went through months of vocal training. And it was really cool to see him put the work in. Production hired a vocal coach. I didn't go to those sessions, but I would get like a video every week of his progress. It was fun to see him getting better at singing this song. And it's a Stevie Wonder song. It's kind of tough.
Did the rights holders want to see what the performance would look like?
Well, because they understood, you have to clear this stuff before like a studio like Netflix will let you even film it. So they understand that. But we did send script pages. So this, as far as the 3 pillars, this one fills the on-camera and also difficult clearance. So this one was like, it was probably 6 months of back and forth on this clearance. They needed script pages. The movie, like not on this scene, but they kind of set it up by him like being a Stevie Wonder fan, and they had like a line of dialogue that kind of poked fun a little bit, and Stevie's camp came back and was like, you have to cut that out.
Wow.
And the producers wanted this song so bad that they like actually edited the script, which isn't usually the case.
Right. You have to be a pretty big artist to command that as script change.
Script change,
Right.
yeah, or usually we would just go to a different song at that point. But for this one, they actually cut the joke, and yeah, we can watch the clip and then we can talk about it.
Super cool.
Bailey?
And you just have to watch to find out what happens. That's the end of the film, so a lot of those characters we're seeing are like kind of revisiting jokes that happened earlier. But yeah, so that's what we call a pre-record. I'm sure, obviously, you're familiar. So, you know, he did all that practice and then went into a recording studio and recorded the song ahead of that day of filming. And then he probably sang it like a dozen times. They comped the vocals together of all his best takes. And then the day of, I got to go to set. I was there that day. They filmed. And he's basically just lip syncing to like a live track. And they cut it all together with movie magic.
So fun.
Yeah, he did great. I was really proud of him. So that was a fun one. And then the third clip, which is kind of a longer story. This is like the research project we had talked about earlier. So this one is a World War II drama. How are we doing on time, by the way? I don't want to take up too much of the Q&A. Okay, so World War II drama, Amsterdam. It's follows the story of Anne Frank. She's in it, but she's not the main character. The main character actually follows like the young freedom fighters in Amsterdam who helped like hide the Frank family. Like the Otto Frank is the father. It's his secretary. That's the main character. So the scene we're going to see is her and Otto speaking, and what we're listening for is there's a bell, like a bell tower, which actually is like it comes up in the Anne Frank diary, and so is a plot point in the show. So that's what we're listening for here, and then I can kind of tell the rest of the story.
Cool.
After.
Let's watch.
Are you okay?
Yeah, so that one, that show's called Small Light. I forgot to say that earlier. I'll try to make this quick. The producers came to us for that, and they wanted, because these bells were, like I said, like a plot point, they wanted it to be as authentic as possible. They did that with every department, costumes, production design, whatever. So they came to us, they wanted those bells. We hired a musicologist, which is a whole nother job that we could talk about.
Have another hour conversation.
Yeah, that would be cool. This musicologist actually found, like, she went through like old newspaper clippings and found like a playlist of like, a newspaper was like, the bells played this today in like November whatever 1945 or whatever it was. So we knew the compositions then at that point, and so I found a man who lives in Amsterdam. His whole job is he goes around to like the 6 or 7 bell towers in Amsterdam and plays those bells for the city.
How did you find that?
I can't remember. I mean, it was private detective work for sure on that one. We found this guy. He the instrument is actually called a carillon, so it's keyboard based with mechanical wires connected to bells. And so we sent him that playlist from the musicologist, and he was really stoked because they had been wondering, because one of those bell towers is right next to the Anne Frank Museum, because that's like where they were hidden.
Wow.
And so he was really excited to get this playlist that we had found, and so he ended up recording these songs for us on the same bells that the Frank family would have heard, and so we got that recording and put it in the show.
I think that's super cool. I think, there's a lot of music that's always in your face and people focus on that, but I think it's like the subtlety of certain scenes that kind of bring it over the top and make it
And
so
just
unique and accurate.
and
right?
just even from like a client vendor perspective, like the producers were so excited about that, and that was really a feather in our cap on that.
I love that. Let's get some questions.
Yeah. Only got a
Let's
couple
see.
minutes
I'm
here.
going to start from who came first. Cooper is asking, when working with clearances you want for a project, what's the most important thing to offer to rights holders that strengthen your chances besides money?
I was like, money?
Great question, by the way.
That is a great question. We try to like really like if it's because we kind of know like projects that are special ones or not, and if it is, like, you definitely want to get that out in front. Like, hey, look, these are the people who are attached. This one's gonna be really cool. Like your artist will like want to be involved. Mm-hmm. So like there's that. If it's not one of those projects, which happens. I don't know. I mean, you just try to like maybe you're calling in favors at that point. Like, hey, I'll get you on the next one. Which
Totally.
sometimes
I think
works.
building the relationship as well, and knowing that you're an easy person to work with, and that you're open to all kinds of ideas. I think that's kind of what we're looking for.
Yeah, and then lastly, I'll just say like it's like kind of a leverage thing where it's like a lot of times for artists this is found money, and so like you can approach it like, hey, I don't want to send you an offer that's offensive, but if your artist is open, I understand this is like under market rate, but if your artist is into it,
Yeah,
here it is. Here's the deal.
I feel like I was in a situation where I had to offer not enough money to some artist that was pretty big, and I said, like I could go back and ask for more, but it's still not going to be enough to do anything for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next question.
Yep.
What is a place that surprised you, city, town, country, that surprised you with an exciting and overlooked musical output? Ohio. No,
Dang, off the top.
it's a hard one.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's hard to, because like a surprise, that's tough to say a surprise because, I mean, everywhere has like a music scene. I'm always bragging about the Athens, Ohio music scene.
I love that. I wish I knew it better.
Yeah,
I feel like we're both in LA and New York, and that's a crazy music scene, and everyone kind of wants to play there.
I will say one that I had fun with that like it wasn't really a surprise, but it was one that I hadn't been a fan of or been into was Miami. I got to do a docu-series about like a group of dancers. It's like a high school dance team, but they're like really serious. It's like inner city Miami. It's like some of the dancers go on to be like Beyonce's like backup dancers. And so it was like a docu-series following the dance captain and just like the Miami bounce and that whole thing like was really cool. I've never even been to Miami, so it was
Sick.
yeah, it was sick. It was that music was cool. So to me, that was a surprise. I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, of course, Miami has great music.
Cool. I think my favorite place is Paris, but we'll get to that another time. Here's a good one. Tanner wants to know, or is saying, you were talking about having the right musical taste, so we need proof. What or who are you listening to right now?
So
Casey or Tanner.
I got really into a folk singer named Jesse Wells recently. I've like mentioned him to some people and they're like, who? And then I'm like, here, check out the video. And they're like, oh, that guy. Because I think he has a really strong like TikTok following, but he'll film these videos of him. He just put a record out of like 60 songs. It was called like Under the Power Lines or something. And he does all these videos like out in the woods, like under like in a clearing with like these power lines. And so that's like his backdrop for the videos. But he's kind of like a John Prine style. He's doing like protest songs in a way that I haven't heard like the younger generation do, and that's really interesting to me.
Very cool. What am I listening to? I am listening to an artist called, he's a writer, producer, artist called Casey MQ. And I think he produced OK Lou's recent album.
Cool.
And I think he put a record out last year and did like the deluxe version for 2025. And I think it's a beautiful piece of music.
What's the genre?
I'm not good with genres, but you should listen to it. I'll send it to you later.
It's a blend.
Okay, Josh is asking, how might the proliferation of AI-generated music affect the music supervision world in years to come? We try to avoid the AI question.
Yeah, try to avoid the AI. I went to I think our time's up, but I will say we went to a conference recently, and this subject was tackled. It was like a Guild of Music Supervisors event, and the takeaway was wait and see. It was like, we don't know yet.
I love that. I don't think AI can do what we do. And
I hope so.
And if they try to do it, it's just going to be a lesser version of it. So I'm not worried terribly here. So I think that's time for us, and thank you for having us. And
great questions.